What if I told you the future has already been written? What if the 20th century's biggest events, everything from catastrophic disasters to sweeping technological revolutions, were accurately predicted long before they ever happened? Sounds like the plot of a sci-fi movie, right? But today, we're not talking about fiction. Instead, we're diving into a world of astonishing facts and examining 10 prophecies from vastly different cultures and eras that came true with chilling accuracy. Get ready, because some of these coincidences are so unbelievable, they will force you to rethink history and the nature of time itself. Are you sure you're ready to find out what ancient seers and geniuses of the past foretold? Then let's begin. Since the dawn of time, humanity has tried to peek into the future. Prophets, oracles, science fiction writers, and even scientists all have striven to unlock what lies ahead. Prophecies are more than just vague pronouncements. Sometimes they contain astonishingly specific details that seem impossible for the era they were made in. We tend to treat them with skepticism, often dismissing them as random chance or overly generous interpretations. But what if there are simply too many coincidences? In our journey, we will separate the ambiguous phrases from the verifiable predictions. We will examine a work of literature written 14 years before the tragedy that described the sinking of the Titanic in chilling detail, and explore how ancient Native American legends seemingly foretold the rise of the internet. These are the stories of people and texts that somehow seem to know more than they should have. We begin with a tale whose chilling accuracy is hard to ignore. 14 years before the legendary Titanic sank, way back in 1898, a little-known author named Morgan Robertson published a novella called Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan. In it, Robertson described a colossal transatlantic liner, dubbed unsinkable. The vessel's name in the book? The Titan. With astonishing detail, Robertson outlined its dimensions, displacement, speed, and passenger count, statistics that nearly mirrored the future Titanic. The fictional ship was also British, and its creators boastfully declared it invulnerable to the forces of nature. This level of overlap already feels like an uncanny coincidence, but the most shocking details were yet to be revealed. The book itself was not a bestseller. It was nearly forgotten until the real-life tragedy forced the world to dust off its pages. Imagine the sheer astonishment of those who stumbled upon this long-forgotten text after April 1912. But the most striking aspect of Robertson's prophecy was the level of detail regarding the disaster itself. In his book, the Titan strikes an iceberg on a cold April night in the North Atlantic, roughly 400 miles off the coast of Newfoundland. This is exactly what happened to the Titanic 14 years later. Just like in the real-life tragedy, Robertson's fictional ship carried a catastrophically insufficient number of lifeboats, resulting in the death of most of the 2,500 passengers. Every key element, the name, the technical specifications, the cause and location of the sinking, the time of year, and even the fatal shortage of lifeboats was identical. When reality mirrored fiction with such terrifying accuracy, many people were left asking, was Morgan Robertson simply a highly intuitive writer? Or did he somehow manage to glimpse the future? Now let's fast forward to the 16th century and focus on history's most renowned prophet, Michel de Nostradamus, or simply Nostradamus. His cryptic four-line verses, known as quatrains, continue to baffle and divide scholars and researchers even today. While many are hopelessly vague, one particular prediction is remarkable for its specificity. In one of his quatrains he wrote, "The blood of the just will fall upon London, which shall burn in the fire of 66. The ancient lady will fall from her high place, and many of the same sect will be killed." On the surface, this reads like typical ominous poetry, but when you match it up against historical events, the picture becomes chillingly clear. This particular prophecy is widely considered one of the most accurate within his entire body of work. And here's what actually happened. The Great Fire of London began on September 2nd, 1666. It started in a bakery on Pudding Lane and raged for 3 days, incinerating much of the city, including St. Paul's Cathedral, which many believe was the very ancient lady mentioned. Researchers interpret the phrase, the blood of the just, as a possible reference to the execution of King Charles I, an event that had happened previously and deeply shocked all of England. The fire truly led to the persecution of Catholics, who were wrongly accused of the arson, which aligns perfectly with the line about the demise of many of the same sect. The year itself, 66, is explicitly named. The convergence of the date, location, and key circumstances makes this particular Nostradamus prophecy one of the most compelling examples of a prediction ever fulfilled. Let's move into the 20th century, focusing on the American mystic and healer Edgar Cayce, often referred to as the sleeping prophet. He delivered his prophecies while in a deep trance state. In 1925, right in the middle of the economic boom known as the Roaring Twenties, Cayce made a truly shocking prediction. He forecast unprecedented economic expansion and a massive speculative boom in the stock market. Countless individuals, he said, would become fabulously wealthy simply by investing in stocks. He warned, however, that this entire expansion was just the calm before the storm. He strongly advised his followers to exit the market completely by the beginning of 1929, predicting a catastrophic crash that would shake the entire nation to its core. Most people, drunk on the promise of easy money, simply ignored his dire warning. They paid a heavy price. In October 1929, the catastrophic Wall Street crash occurred, an event now universally known as Black Tuesday. This pivotal event immediately triggered the Great Depression, the deepest economic crisis ever faced by the United States, and one that quickly engulfed the entire world. Thousands of ordinary people saw their life savings wiped out overnight. Edgar Cayce's prediction, however, came to pass with striking, even terrifying accuracy. He hadn't just foreseen the preceding boom. He had precisely outlined its tragic finale and even specified the exact time frame. It wasn't merely a vague forecast. It was a clear and urgent warning that, tragically, almost no one heeded. Prophecies don't always come from mystics. Sometimes it feels like destiny is writing the script itself. Our next story involves one of the greatest American writers of all time, Mark Twain. Twain was famous for his sharp wit and satirical genius, but few people are aware of the incredibly personal prophecy he made about his own life. Mark Twain, whose birth name was Samuel Clemens, entered the world on November 30th, 1835. That year was truly unique. It was the exact time Halley's Comet made its brilliant appearance in the sky. The comet only appears once every 76 years, invariably generating massive public interest. Twain often made jokes referencing this cosmic coincidence. In 1909, he told his biographer, Albert Bigelow Paine, "I came in with Halley's Comet, and I expect to go out with it." And his words proved prophetic. On April 20th, 1910, Halley's Comet once again became visible from Earth. And the very next day, April 21st, Mark Twain died of a heart attack. He truly departed the world alongside the comet, exactly as he had foreseen. This incredible coincidence links the life and death of the great writer to a major cosmic phenomenon. It's difficult to believe this was a simple accident or mere chance. It seems as if the universe itself ensured his story would have such a poetic and mystical finale. Mark Twain, the master of words, became the protagonist of an astonishing true story, one that even he couldn't have written himself. Now let's explore the insights of ancient peoples. The Hopi people who inhabit the American Southwest are renowned for their complex cosmological beliefs and the prophecies they have passed down through countless generations. One of their most famous predictions states that a time will arrive when a web will be constructed all across the world. Through this web, people would be able to communicate across vast distances, and they would essentially travel or move without ever leaving their physical location. For an ancient people who lived in harmony with the natural world, such an image must have been profoundly unusual, perhaps even nonsensical. What kind of web could possibly entangle the entire earth? Today, we finally grasp the meaning behind the words of the Hopi elders. At first, the prophecy seemed to refer to the emergence of telegraph and telephone lines, which did indeed blanket the planet in wires. But with the arrival of the internet, That prophecy took on an entirely new, chillingly accurate significance. After all, we call the internet the World Wide Web. We communicate across vast distances using social media and instant messengers. And the part about people moving along the web while physically staying put, that is an exact description of how we navigate websites, consume information, and interact in a virtual space, all without ever having to leave our seats. This ancient Hopi prophecy has proven to be an astonishingly precise blueprint for our modern digital age. Many significant prophecies are deeply intertwined with religion and sacred texts. One of the most widely debated and significant predictions within both the Jewish and Christian traditions is the prophecy concerning the restoration of the state of Israel. Throughout the Old Testament, particularly in the books of the prophets Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, numerous passages detail how the people of Israel would be exiled from their homeland and scattered among the nations. This prediction came to pass following the destruction of the Second Temple by the Romans in 70 AD. The Jewish people were indeed dispersed globally, living without their own sovereign state for nearly 2 millennia. However, these very same prophets also foretold that, in the latter days, God would gather his people from the four corners of the earth and restore them to their ancestral homeland. For centuries, the idea seemed utterly impossible to many. How could a people scattered across the globe, without a homeland, possibly reunite and revive their nation? Yet on May 14, 1948, a monumental historic event occurred. The creation of the State of Israel was proclaimed. For the first time in nearly 2,000 years, the Jewish people finally had a home in the land promised to their ancestors. For millions of believers worldwide, this provided indisputable evidence of the fulfillment of ancient biblical prophecy. Regardless of one's religious perspective, the very fact that a nation could be reborn after so many centuries of exile is a unique historical phenomenon, one that had been foretold in ancient texts. Some predictions weren't made by prophets but by true geniuses, minds that were centuries ahead of their time. The prime example of such a visionary is Leonardo da Vinci. He wasn't just a great artist, he was also a brilliant inventor. His notebooks filled with intricate sketches and blueprints are a genuine window into the future. To people living in the 15th century, his ideas seemed like pure science fiction. Many even dismissed them as heresy. He designed groundbreaking mechanisms that had no modern equivalent and detailed scientific principles that wouldn't be fully understood for centuries. Da Vinci was obsessed with the idea of flight, diligently studying the anatomy of birds and drafting sophisticated designs for flying machines. But his extraordinary foresight wasn't limited just to the skies. Let's examine his inventions. In his records, we find a detailed diagram of a device he named the aerial screw. Today, we instantly recognize this as the clear prototype of the modern helicopter. He also developed plans for an armoured vehicle, powered manually by the crew inside, a design that was, effectively, a tank. Furthermore, he sketched out a diving suit, complete with air tubes, designed specifically for naval sabotage against enemy vessels, the parachute, the movable bridge, the spring-driven automobile, the machine gun. The list of his prophetic inventions could fill volumes. Leonardo da Vinci didn't predict the future with words, he engineered it, and these revolutionary designs only finally became reality in the 20th century. Much like Leonardo da Vinci, the writer Jules Verne was a true visionary, though his primary instrument wasn't an engineer's pen, but the vast imagination of a novelist. In 1865, he published his novel, From the Earth to the Moon. In it, he chronicled the journey of 3 brave adventurers travelling to our planet's satellite. What is truly striking is not the idea of space travel itself. People had dreamed of that for centuries, but the staggering number of technical details that later perfectly aligned with the actual lunar program. For instance, in the book, the spacecraft launches from Florida near Cape Canaveral, the very same location used for the American Apollo missions. Jules Verne even devised a name for his fictional spaceport, Stones Hill. But the parallels don't stop there. The crew in the novel consists of 3 people, just like the Apollo 11 mission. The projectile they use is named the Columbiad, and the command module for the actual mission was named Columbia. Furthermore, the dimensions and weight of the fictional craft are incredibly close to the actual specifications of the Apollo spacecraft. But the most astonishing detail? After circling the moon, Jules Verne's capsule returns to Earth, splashing down in the Pacific Ocean, where it is recovered by a US Navy ship. This is precisely how all the real lunar missions concluded. Jules Verne, having no access to modern scientific data, described the moon flight a full 100 years early with such staggering accuracy that it feels less like science fiction and more like a historical report delivered from the future. Nikola Tesla, of course, is another genius who fundamentally shaped and predicted our technological present. This man essentially gave the world the 20th century, yet his most radical ideas weren't fully understood or implemented until decades after he died. But in a striking interview published in Collier's magazine in 1926, Tesla made a truly astonishing prediction. He described a future where information would be transmitted across the globe without wires. He stated that once wireless communication was fully implemented, the entire Earth would transform into one massive brain, and he went even further, detailing the specific device that would become the key to unlocking this future. Tesla predicted a portable device that would allow us to see and hear each other as if we were standing side by side, bridging thousands of miles. He stated, "We will be able to watch and listen to the inauguration of a president, a sports event, or the consequences of an earthquake, just as if we were present." Crucially, he claimed this apparatus would be incredibly simple compared to our current telephone, and that a person will be able to carry it in their vest pocket. This is a 100% accurate description of the modern smartphone, with its capabilities for video calls, streaming, and global access to information. Nikola Tesla predicted more than just a piece of technology. He foresaw the very essence of our mobile, interconnected digital age. We'll wrap up our list, not exactly with a prophecy, but with a shocking series of mystical coincidences linking the fates of two American presidents, Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. These parallels are so numerous and bizarre that they make you seriously consider the existence of some hidden historical patterns. Let's start with the obvious. Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846, and Kennedy exactly 100 years later in 1946. Lincoln became president in 1860, Kennedy in 1960. Both men were assassinated on a Friday, shot in the head, and in the presence of their wives. And that is just the beginning. Now, prepare to be amazed. Lincoln's successor was Vice President Andrew Johnson, born in 1808. Kennedy's successor was Lyndon Johnson, born exactly 100 years later, in 1908. Lincoln's personal secretary, whose name was John, advised the president not to go to the theatre on that fateful day. Kennedy's secretary was named Evelyn Lincoln, and she too urged him not to travel to Dallas. Lincoln's assassin, John Wilkes Booth, was born in 1839. Kennedy's assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, was born in 1939. Booth shot Lincoln inside a theatre and fled to a warehouse. Oswald shot Kennedy from a warehouse and was later captured in a theatre. Both assassins were killed before they could stand trial. The list of parallels continues. Coincidence? Or a chilling, preordained historical pattern? And just like that, we've reviewed 10 incredible stories, from the writer who described the sinking of the Titanic in perfect detail 14 years before the tragedy, to the genius Nikola Tesla, who predicted the smartphone we now carry in our pocket. We saw how the ancient prophecies of the Hopi Indians seemed to describe the internet, and how strange, mystical coincidences tied the fates of Lincoln and Kennedy together. What is this? Unbelievable chance? Pure genius intuition? Or proof that the future can actually be seen? There is no definitive answer, and frankly, that's exactly what makes these stories so captivating. They remind us that the world is far more complex and mysterious than it appears on the surface, and that our history is still full of unanswered mysteries. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you found this interesting, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next investigations. And now, for a question for you. Which of these prophecies shocked you the most? Or maybe you know of other predictions that came true. Let me know in the comments below. Let's discuss.